All we've done for over 100 years in our energy sector is generate electrons and then bill customers and collect their cash. I've been in this industry for 11 years now, and this is a key moment because we're right on the cusp of being able to truly differentiate ourselves. We don't want to just be another one of the energy companies in New Zealand. We want to be better than everyone else. If I look back on my career in 15, 20 years' time, I want to better say I changed the way consumers engage with energy.
Look at that face.
So from what I understand, you studied engineering and French in the UK and France, is that right?
That's correct. Strange combination, really.
It's a very British combination.
Yes. So I was quite early on in my career. I actually went into it thinking I was going to start my own business up. So I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I guess that's leadership in a way. And then Ford Motor Company came along and offered me a job, and something rational kicked in. Some sort of rational oh, you better go and learn a few things before you go and run your own business. And so I joined Ford Motor Company, which was the most bureaucratic, old school business in some ways, but incredibly useful in terms of learning about business.
And then you moved into the sort of leadership positions in energy.
So I joined a company called Centrica in the UK that was, had a subsidiary British Gas, which is a retail energy business. Got given a great opportunity to go and run an operation. So it was 1,500 people in an office in Leicester. You know, I was able to make change happen within my sphere of influence because it was more of an entrepreneurial environment, whereas I'd come from a much more bureaucratic one.
What do you think are the key attributes of a leader? What do you think they need to have in order to succeed?
You need to have that intent-based leadership in you, but you also need to have a humbleness that means that people can relate to you and I think ultimately they like you. These days I think leaders need to listen more, but be careful not to confuse listening and debate with consensus-driven leadership. Sometimes you just need to make a decision. And I often say to people, the only bad strategy is to have no strategy.
Have you always had those attributes, or is there a moment where you've learned that that's the style of leadership you need?
I think I evolved to be a leader, but I probably had some natural leadership capabilities. I mean, my extended family loved to watch an old cine film from probably the 1970s when I was less than 10, and we were building a stone wall in a cottage in Wales, and there's pictures of me bossing everyone around, telling them where to go. I wasn't picking up anything. Everyone was picking up stones and cement and dirt, and the whole extended family was busy, and there was me pointing and telling everyone where to go. I was probably 8. And so I think I had that natural bossiness about me. Which perhaps manifested itself through certain jobs in my career as a willingness to take the lead.
Yeah.
But I don't remember ever saying I want to be a leader.
So you had a natural innate ability that just kept coming out in each position that kept leading to the next one.
I think that's part of it. I think I also have a reasonably high personal appetite for personal risk.
Right.
So I've never worried in my career about losing my job. I've never made a decision to be conservative in case I got it wrong. And I think that holds a lot of people back. There's a fear that if you get something wrong, there might be a consequence.
But you take very measured steps, so you're calculating how much risk there is.
Absolutely, and there's good risk and bad risk. There's some things you just cannot take risks on.
Yeah.
People's safety and harm to people is not a good failure, so you cannot take risks. But putting a new product into market, if it fails, has limited consequences other than personal reputation. And I think sometimes people can misinterpret what a good risk, a good failure, a bad failure might be, and therefore be risk averse in what actually is not the end of the world if it doesn't work perfectly.
You've come in, there have been people that are used to working a particular way. How do you create that change?
You win the heart and mind by presenting a very clear vision that people can understand. They don't have to always agree, they have to understand it. And then you've got to make the argument. But I think having a consumer-driven vision is a lot easier to motivate people around because it's tangible and everyone is a consumer of our product, remember, even in all our employees, so they can relate to it. It's that trade-off between performing as a business and transforming. And, you know, there's lots of case studies out there of companies that have transformed well, but they drop the ball because they can't run their existing business well. And then there's other companies who run their existing business very well but stay static and don't evolve and change. And I think there's probably very few industries now that are not in some sort of change mode because the world's moving faster.
What excites most of them about where you're taking things?
I think what they're excited about is seeing a clear destination for Genesis. So I tell a little story, a little metaphor, and it's when you get up in the morning and you wake up and you say, I am going to the Genesis office in Green Lane, for example. You define a destination. Your strategies are how you're going to get there. So you can drive your car, you're going to get on the bus, you're going to run or cycle. Strategies have to be flexible because you can come across roadworks, traffic, you can have a puncture on your car. So you change your strategy, but you still get to your destination, but you only get there because you defined your destination. If you get up in the morning and you say, I'm going to go somewhere, and you get in your car and you drive, you don't get anywhere, you just drive around and meander. And actually a lot of companies don't define a very clear destination. And I think if I look at some of the case studies of companies that have failed, they're often enjoying driving the car, but they don't know where they're going. And so as I go around the business, what empowers me and motivates me is when I see employees understanding that destination.
So is that the appeal then maybe in energy, is that it is it's becoming a more innovative entrepreneurial industry in the sense that there's massive change happening?
Yes, technology is changing that, it's enabling the change, but consumers are demanding more as well. And so I did look ahead about 6 years ago and say, well, this is where I want to be for the next 15, 20 years, because if I look at different industries around the world, this is the one that I think will change the most.
Consumers obviously are becoming, more connected, they're more knowledgeable, they're more powerful. You've just said that they are changing the way business operates, specifically the energy industry. What specifically is that change?
There's two dimensions. One is what the consumer is demanding, and the other is what we need to do in order to develop and protect our future. Consumers are demanding more digitization, more digital interactions. They want to be able to tap things on their phone as opposed to receive a paper bill. But then there's a bunch of needs that I think consumers don't yet know they need. I have a lot of people saying, well, if customers don't want it, why would you do it? Well, if Apple had said, do you want your keyboard on your screen? Most consumers have said, no, I like my keyboard on the table, thanks.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how when you put something in front of a consumer and test it, they suddenly realize there's something better than they thought. If we can't engage consumers in energy, if all they want to do is turn the lights on and pay their bill, then I think there are some longer term risks for our industry as other brands and other industries start to percolate into our space, and they are very good at engaging consumers. So the desire to be with Genesis is an important thing we're trying to create here, and that's the engagement.
I get that in terms of Genesis as a company, it's ensuring its long-term survival. Is there a deeper motivation for you in terms of doing it for the customer, or is it just about doing your job well? No,
I ultimately want to change the way consumers engage with energy. If I look back on my career in 15, 20 years' time, I want to be able to say I changed the way consumers engage with energy.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a sailor and sail around the world. That's really all I wanted to do.
What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Sail around the world. And then when you've done that, keep an open mind and go with the flow. Sail with the wind. I mean, it's a great analogy. You can't sail into the wind. So even if you want to get upwind, you've got to find a way to get there, but be happy sailing in a different direction for a while until the wind shifts. I think that little analogy there, I've seen some people in their career, they won't do that. They keep wanting to try and sail into the wind. You can't sail into the wind. So
you believe that life just takes you on a journey as long as you let it keep going with each opportunity?
You can control how you sail.
Yeah.
But there's some things you just can't do. You can't sail into the wind, so you've got to go with the flow. And there's lots of opportunities in my career I've just taken. I didn't make them. This was one. There's people I know who would have not even applied for this job because they wouldn't have been open to the idea of it. So you've got to be open-minded and willing to see where it takes you.
And what's it like to be filmed?
I'm being filmed, am I? You didn't tell me that. I thought this was for radio. I always put a different jacket on.